Hello, ladies, and welcome to another episode of the Autoimmune Rehab Podcast, where, as always, you can find show notes, transcripts, and other helpful links at autoimmunerehab.com. And if you enjoyed this show, I'd greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe, rate it, or review it on iTunes, and share the podcast with other people who can benefit from learning about different aspects of how to heal from autoimmune disorders. Okay, so no further ado, let's get started with today's episode. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk with you about how to heal yourself by getting rooted in nature. And along with that, I'm going to discuss a few aspects of things such as earthing and grounding. And those things will come from this book right here, Earthing, the Most Important Health Discovery Ever. And I will link to the information in the show notes about this book so that you will be able to check it out and take a look at it. This book has a lot of scientific information in it as well about earthing and grounding and some of the different health benefits, as well as a lot of stories from different people who have benefited from different aspects of earthing, grounding, getting rooted in nature, whatever different terminology you want to use to describe that. And stay tuned, because even though I know you may think, oh, getting rooted in nature, that just means going outside, but there's a lot more to it than that. And I'm going to discuss, including a few ideas that you may possibly have never thought of, as well as some, that you probably have thought of. And like I said, this book that I will link to in the show notes is really a must read, in my opinion. They offer all kinds of different things in here, like how you can benefit from earthing or getting outside in nature, with even things like allergies, arthritis, autism is in here, back pain, there's a whole section on that, inflammation of the blood vessels, jet lag even after you've been on a trip, lupus, which is of course an autoimmune disorder, Lyme disease, all kinds of things in here. So like I said, if you really want to learn more, this is a really great resource for you to check out and read. Okay, so now let's get started with some of the different ways that you can heal yourself by getting rooted in nature. So number one, which I already just mentioned, is the concept of earthing. And let's actually also take a minute here and describe earthing. So earthing, there are a couple different ways that it can be described. And the main way, or very basic definition, if you will, of earthing is the process of going outside and digging in the sand or putting your toes in the dirt or the grass. In other words, getting one with nature and exposing your bare feet and your bare hands to the earth. So that's literally earthing. Now, number two, which is somewhat related to earthing, is the concept of grounding. Now, grounding is a little bit different in the sense that you actually can engage in grounding indoors as well. So grounding outside would be really similar. You can also ground though as well without necessarily taking off your socks and shoes. So grounding you can do by just walking outside. But you will be more effective if you do take off at least your shoes and just like wear your socks, for example. So like I said, earthing and grounding are connected. Another way to ground, like I already said, which is indoors, would be to actually buy some kind of a grounding mat and then put that grounding mat underneath your feet and connect it, and then be able to benefit from the grounding even though you're inside. So I personally have a grounding mat that I will actually link to in the show notes and over on autoimmunerehab.com as well. So you can go there and check it out. And what I do with it is I connect it and I wear it where I take my shoes off, but I keep my socks on, and I have it underneath my computer desk where all the cords from my computers, the EMFs from the internet, that kind of thing are. And that helps to absorb that and helps to make it so that it doesn't cause as many problems. because one of the biggest problems we have with our modern day societies, even though we love the idea of being connected to Wi-Fi all the time, to electricity, to all of the modern day amenities, if you will, that we have, a lot of those generate a lot of electromagnetic frequencies and a lot of other things that can really cause a lot of health issues. And autoimmune issues are really only one aspect of that. It can cause, other things like headaches and difficulty sleeping. In some cases, if somebody has cancer, it could even make the symptoms worse. There's all different kinds of research about how earthing and grounding can really help us to avoid and mitigate some of those effects of the EMFs, the electromagnetic frequencies, and things that just really can cause a lot of harm to our bodies. So those are the first two, earthing and grounding. The number 3 is the one that you probably thought of right away when you saw the title of this podcast about getting rooted in nature, and that is just walking outside. So, just get outside and go for a good old-fashioned walk, and that can help you to get rooted in nature. Personally, I like to say that going for a walk, you really want to try to make that walk at least 30 minutes, partly because that's what it takes to really stimulate your body so that you can help your metabolism and you can lose weight, things like that. But if you really can't walk for that long, just get outside and go for a walk for 5 minutes if that's really all the time you can do it. And I have actually started doing this even when I'm at work and I'm in my office all day long. I will make myself at least once a day during the 8 hours that I'm working go outside and go for a walk for at least 5 minutes. And it is amazing how much better I feel after I've been outside. And, even if it's raining or snowing, which as of the date of this recording, I'm recording this in January, and I believe it will be coming out in February, but I live in Utah, so, there's been tons of rain and snow lately, and it's cold. It still is really good for you to get outside and get that good old-fashioned walk to get out in nature. Okay, the number 4 is another one that you may or may not have necessarily thought of, and that's meditation. And a lot of us think of meditation in connection with like yoga classes or doing meditation, right in the first thing in the morning when we get up, or right before you go to bed, or doing meditation indoors. But I would suggest to you that you can get outside and do meditation outside. I've done this several times and it actually can be really effective. And there's a couple different ways you can do it. Like if you have access to a yard with some grass or things like that, you could just get outside and just sit down in the grass and do a meditation right then and there. Or, if you don't have access to grass, you could go barefooted on the cement, or, just wherever you can go, or maybe even not barefooted, just still wearing socks and shoes, and do a meditation sitting outside and just sit there in the still and peacefulness and quiet. Maybe do some meditation with some music if it's the time of day that you don't have neighbors that are going to be disturbed by that. And, that gives you the perfect opportunity to really combine meditation with earthing or grounding. And I believe that the combination of those things can be really, really powerful. Just to give you an example as well, and this example actually refers to doing it indoors, but it can still be really, really effective. But there is a business here in Salt Lake City called the Mindful Living Center, and I can actually link to that in the show notes as well. So those of you who are listening to this from the Salt Lake area can go check it out. But they offer things like massages, facials, salt baths, infrared sauna, all that kind of stuff. But in addition to that, they actually have an actual meditation garden that you can go sit in that is indoors, that has like fake grass, some different like Buddha statues, different Zen type things, and mats, and they do classes in there, things like journaling, sound baths, things like that. But I've gone there before and just sat there and meditated in the meditation gardens. And even though you're not outside for this one, you actually are indoors. They've created a really good environment that has created a really good sense of peacefulness and awareness, and works really, really great for meditation. So, especially if you live in an area where it's cold a lot of the year, you can, or, a big chunk of the year, and you don't really want to go outside and meditate, but you still want some of the benefits of that, that's something else for you to think about. And, it doesn't have to be a really large room. In this case, it's like an entire basement of a house, basically. physically, but you can, just set up a really small corner area with some fake grass or whatever suits your boat and use that as your meditation corner. Then number 5, now this is one that I have not done as much as I probably should do, but it definitely is one that I've tried in the past and has actually been super calm and peaceful, and that is listening to birds. So basically just going outside, and it's kind of like a combination of the meditation and the earthing, but just going outside, sitting there and seeing if you can listen to the birds and the song and just let yourself relax and just hear the sounds of those birds. And if there aren't a lot of bird noises in your area, or they just don't have a lot of bird noises at the time that you are wanting to do this exercise, you can actually also find online or get recordings of birds chirping and meditating and making their noises, and you can just sit there and listen to the birds on a recording as well. Obviously, it's going to be better if you can find real birds outside in nature, but that isn't always possible. Okay, the number 6 is doing a tree exercise. Now, in order to do this, there's a couple different ways you can do it, and I can link in the show notes below some different examples that I found. But there are some different exercises that you can do where, for example, you go out on a little bit of a walk, or you maybe even find a tree in your backyard or front yard or wherever you can find a tree. And then you just either stand or sit near that tree and you take some different notes and observations about that tree. And usually you'll want to stand there or sit there for about 10 minutes or so and just take note of, what is the tree doing? Try to listen to the tree, almost kind of try to be a tree hugger, if you will. That may seem a little bit extreme to some of you, but and I'm not necessarily saying you have to actually reach out and hug the tree, but you can literally just do an exercise where you take notice of, its bark, its stem, its leaves. Is it shedding leaves? Does it still have some leaves? Different things like that, and just kind of be grateful and acknowledge the tree and all that the tree has to offer, and do a written exercise about the tree. Okay, the number 7 is collecting leaves and flowers. Now, this is often connected with some kind of a nature walk. I know up at the Snowbird Mountain Resort in northern Utah, there's primarily skiing in the winter, but in the summer they actually do at least once a week what's called an actual nature walk, where they go around and they have a guide that takes you and talks about all the different flowers and trees and plants and different things that are in the area. And you can find a guide in your area that's doing an official walk like that if you want. Or you can do your own unofficial one and just kind of wander around and take notes of what are some of the different plants, trees, flowers, shrubbery, what's available in your area. Maybe take some notes, take some pictures, find some different ways of figuring out what is available and learning a little bit more about it. I know there are some apps that you can use that you can literally snap a picture of like a leaf or a tree or flower or something like that, and then instantly get a whole bunch of information about it. If you decide you don't want to do that, I'm sure Google's your friend. You can go take pictures, different research, things like that, and just be grateful for, acknowledge, and learn about the flowers and plants and other aspects of nature that are located in your local area. Okay, the number 8 is watching a sunset or a sunrise. Now, I know for me personally, it's been a little while since I did this because it's actually very cold in the morning and very cold at night right now. But in the summer, I will do this more frequently, and you can literally just go outside and sit and watch the sunrise or the sunset, depending on the time of day, and just acknowledge it and take note of it, be in awe of all the pretty colors of red, yellow, orange, purple. Just take note of it, maybe even take a few pictures. You could even do an Instagram story on it if that's your kind of thing. And just really acknowledge and be grateful for the sun and enjoy the beauty of the sunrise or the sunset. Then number 9 is skiing. Now, I know some of you may think this is a little crazy, and personally, even though I live in Utah, which our state motto is the greatest snow on earth, and we have people that come from foreign countries even to come skiing here, I actually haven't skied myself in quite some time. for a variety of reasons, it's pretty expensive, and some of my knee challenges that some of you, if you have followed me along at all or listened to some of my previous podcast episodes, may be aware of, have kept me basically from skiing for a little bit, and I'm hoping to be able to try it again another year or two. But anyhow, you have downhill skiing, and then you also have cross-country skiing that you can do even if you live in an area without mountains, but yet you still get snow. And, it doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out thing. You don't have to go skiing all day long. You could literally only go skiing for, maybe an hour or so if you wanted to. And if skiing isn't practical, you can maybe even try sledding. I know personally I've gotten to the point that my height and weight and size and a few other things with my knees and stuff make sledding not really super practical, but there's always that. And then the last thing I have on my list, which is somewhat connected, is snowshoeing. So this is where you just strap on some shoes and you go walking in the snow. And of course, what I didn't really include on this list as well would be really any other kind of other nature activities, whatever's appropriate for the area that you live in. So as I mentioned, I live in Utah, and I obviously don't have access to a beach. The nearest beach to me is actually all the way in California. So I don't get to see beaches on a regular basis, but if you live in an area that has a beach, then another option for you instead of the skiing or snowshoeing, that kind of thing, could be for you to go exploring and walk along the beach on a regular basis and take off your socks and shoes and squish your toes in the sand and really benefit from that as a method of getting outside and getting rooted in nature. I know when I went to Charleston, South Carolina on a trip this last October, I was able to spend almost probably about 4 hours one day at the beach, and it was amazing how good it felt with the sun and the water and my toes in the sand. And I, just really, really had a big impact on my legs and my knees and other things like that. And really made me wish that I lived closer to a beach. But the reality is that I don't right now, and maybe someday that'll happen. Although we'll see. I really love my mountains too, though. So, there's always that. And generally speaking, most people don't have access to both mountains and a beach. You typically have to pick one or two, one or the other, rather. So, anyhow, hopefully this has given you some good ideas about how to get outside and get rooted in nature to help you with your autoimmune healing. And I promise you that even if you don't really feel that good, maybe you're at a phase where you're stuck in bed, you're just tired a lot, always feeling sick, that you really just have to do what you can to get out there and do the nature, get in the earthing mood, that kind of thing. And really do check out this book on earthing. It has a couple different authors, so it's by actually Clinton Ober, Stephen T. Sinatra, MD, and Martin Zucker, and just really has some really amazing things in here. I was really blown away by it. And like I said, it can be as simple as taking off your socks and shoes and walking outside on grass or cement for 5 minutes, and that's it. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to go run up a mountain. You can do it, and it can suit your own needs. So I hope you found this helpful. As always, you will find the links in the show notes to connect with me. Like I said, I do offer free consultations and discovery sessions. So if you would like to reach out and let's have a conversation to see how I could help you, please go ahead and do that. And as always, I would appreciate it if you would like this podcast, rate it, review it, share it, and let other people know that you're listening to it. And stay tuned and come back for some future episodes. I have some really exciting guests that I'm going to be featuring in future episodes, and so you really don't want to miss out. And take care, and I will talk to you next time.